We are loaded on the week one edition of the Phil Steele Show. I'm Tripp. I've got David Kahn with me, and we're joined by our main man, Phil Steele. We had a nice little week zero slate there, Phil. We got off to a good start, too. You gave everybody Iowa State and the points. You had Kansas to cover. We had Western Kentucky, and you got Hawaii by that hook at the end of the night. It was a nice start to the season. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'll take 4-0 any day of the year, Trip. It was pretty good, and really looking forward to this weekend. Not only the 48 regular games, FBS versus FBS, but 97 games overall. Big card to Thursday. It's just going to be wall-to-wall football this weekend.
I can't wait, man. It's a great slate of games. We're going to try to get to 20 or so games in the next hour. Give some people some locks, some leans, everything in between. But we've got some more exciting news on the show this week. David, you want to tell us about Homefield Apparel?
Yeah, so we have a sponsor now here for the Phil Steele Show. We are very excited to be working with our friends at Homefield Apparel. If you don't know about them, you're doing life wrong because they make quality, thoughtful apparel for more than 190 colleges and universities. Homefieldapparel.com is the place to go. We've got a discount code for you as well. If you enter PHIL15, that's PHIL15 at checkout, you get 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. This football season, you got to make sure you check out Homefield's Can't Miss Kickoff Tour presented by Modelo. The Homefield crew is rolling into 10 different cities throughout college football season. This weekend trip, they're in Tallahassee. Week one, Alabama and Florida State, they will be there. They'll be hosting giveaways, special guests, tailgates, watch parties, a whole lot more. And if you can't get to Tallahassee this weekend, make sure you check out their 2025 Platinum football boxes, stuffed with the latest gear from your favorite team, plus their limited edition whiteout and blackout bomber jackets for 8 select schools. So much going on at Homefield, and we are excited to be working with them here on the Phil Steele Show.
Well, Tallahassee is the place you want to be this weekend. They're going to be playing the war chant all night long down there, but we'll get to that game later. We're going in order here. David, you want to start us out this week, Thursday night? Boise State, big expectations again this year, but they got a sneaky little game here to start out with.
Yeah, they certainly do, Tripp. You're exactly right. Obviously, coming off a appearance in the college football playoff, that line opened around 6.5 for Boise State, but it's dropping now only 5.5 for Boise State in Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida. South Florida underperformed last year. Chance to make a statement, Phil, opening up at home. They're the only school in the country with 3 preseason AP top 25s on their schedule, and it seems like maybe there's some sharp action going South Florida's way. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, well, when I looked at it originally, my line was Boise -3. I think it's a tough test for Boise. You got to deal with the heat and humidity of Florida. And as you mentioned, David, last year South Florida underperformed. Expectations were to contend for the American title. They did not. Part of the reason was Byron Brown, their quarterback, got injured. Brown is back and healthy, and I think that's going to be a big plus for their offense. I think it's going to be a great game. And if you look at the next couple of games, as you mentioned, they have to play Florida and Miami of Florida on the road. South Florida really could use a win here. They don't want to just start out the season 0-3. So I think it's going to be a really good game, come down to the wire. I've got Boise winning it by 3, so I like the points with South Florida.
All right, so we'll see if South Florida can get that cover over Boise State. You've got the Bulls as number 1 talent-wise in the American in your magazine, which, by the way, folks, if you don't have it yet, there's a limited quantity left. Go get yours now. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, go get this Phil Steele magazine. It is the ultimate Bible for college football as Tripp now takes us to the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, they can run out of those magazines. You don't want to miss your chance to get one, and you're doing it wrong if you don't have one. I do want to take us back to the state of North Carolina. Carter Finley Stadium, going to be nice and lubed up around 7 o'clock tonight. NC State hosting East Carolina. Now, if you're not from this state, you might not think much about this matchup, but I'm here to tell you there's going to be some emotions involved in this game. 2 teams really don't like each other. They played in the Military Bowl last year, throwing hands on the field. A lot of those ECU guys maybe they feel a little overlooked by some of the bigger schools in the state that didn't recruit them. They play with that chip on their shoulder. I don't know, 2 touchdowns. That just feels like a lot to me in this game, Phil. NC State favored by 13.5, even at home. Feels like a lot.
Yeah, it's about right where I would put the number for this one. I think NC State's a better team. They're at home playing with revenge. Generally, that makes a play on NC State, but NC State's not a good home favorite. East Carolina is a good road dog. And as you mentioned, Tripp, this is a true rivalry game, as they proved last year in the bowl game when tensions flared up after the game was over. I think when you look at East Carolina, they feel that they're disrespected by NC State. I believe their coach came out and made a comment, something like, if they're going to recruit our players and take our players, the one thing they should do is play us while they're playing them. So I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I've got it right at the number, so I don't have a call on this game. Tripp, it sounds like you're going with East Carolina here.
I'm taking the Pirates in the points here, no doubt about it.
Tripp, it makes sense kind of to go with the Pirates, though, right? Because their new head coach, Blake Harrell, turned the tide last season. 5 out of the last 6 to close the year, Phil. I know you guys documented that heavily here on the Phil Steele Show with ECU's turnaround.
Yeah, I loved it. In fact, I had East Carolina, my number 1 most improved team last year. It didn't look good midseason for that forecast. And then Blake Harrell came in and finished out the season strong, and it got a solid increase in record for East Carolina.
All right, well, let's go to Kansas City now. Arrowhead Stadium is the site for this one. It's a neutral site game. Last game we're going to talk about on Thursday, Nebraska and Cincinnati. Currently, the line is favoring Nebraska by 6.5, so just under a touchdown. The over-under, though, only at 51.5. And Phil, I kind of think we need to hammer the over on this one. Cornhusker fans are going to be packing this place. 50 of the 70K is going to be in Nebraska red. I know both these teams have red colors, but Nebraska is going to heavily fill out this stadium. Dylan Raiola seems ready for a sophomore jump in Lincoln. You're calling for their most productive offense since 2018 for Nebraska. And when you look at Cincinnati, they're so deep offensively across the board. Your computer calls for nearly 30 points per game and nearly 430 yards. So 51.5 seems a little low, don't you think?
Yeah, that could be the way to go in this game. I think when you take a look at the two teams, to me, they're both play-on teams this year. Nebraska could be a very sneaky team in the Big Ten, might even flirt with the playoff bid. But when you look at their schedule, they possibly could win 10 games this year, and that would fall right into Matt Rule's MO, which is winning 10 games his third year at the school. And then on the flip side of the coin, you take a look at Scott Satterfield's first 2 seasons with Cincinnati. Very inexperienced teams. His first year, extremely inexperienced. Last year, still very inexperienced. And this year, big jump on the experience chart. They've got their quarterback back this year. And I think Cincinnati could be a surprise team in the Big 12. So I'm not interested in either side because I find it tough to go against either of these two squads. Brendan Sorsby, though, could have a big day for Cincy. And when you look at Nebraska, my main concern is that they lost their outstanding defensive tackle combination from last year. So that would lend towards your overplay in that one, David.
All right, we'll see if the points stack up here tonight between Nebraska and Cincinnati. From one Big 12 team to another, we go to Waco, Texas, Auburn and Baylor. I think expecting points in this one as well, with that over-under sitting at 58.5 at my last check. Auburn, though, favored on the road by 2.5 at Baylor. Phil, we talked last week how much you love Baylor. Tripp says Sawyer Robertson people are sleeping on as a quarterback. They have a ton of experience. Dave Aranda, defensive-minded guy. You know he's going to have that side of the ball taken care of. But this feels like a big statement game for Auburn. They're favored on the road. Jackson Arnold had a prove-it year. And you say that they were better than their record showed last season. So it feels like this one is a must-get for Auburn and Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I think it's a big game for both teams. You know, you take a look at Baylor. They've got some tough games coming up as well. And this is definitely a huge game, I think, for both. When you look at Auburn, I think they're going to get better quarterback play from Jackson Arnold than he had last year at Oklahoma because he's got better supporting cast. I rate the offensive line number 12 in the country, the receiving core number 6. They should be solid. But Baylor won their last 6 games, arguably the best team in the Big 12 in the second half of the season last year. They got Bryson Washington back. They got Sawyer Robertson back at QB. Washington, of course, their running back. And as you mentioned, Dave Aranda calling the defense. Huge game. My computer says Baylor should be favored in this game. So I'm going to side with the home underdog here and take Baylor.
Okay. I'm going to be watching Georgia Tech and Colorado. on Friday night. I'm already starting to sweat that team total 7.5 for the Yellow Jackets that I was preaching about last week. Honestly, the line in this game right now, Georgia Tech by 4.5 is what I'm seeing currently. I'm kind of surprised it's not a little bit higher. Buffalo's, they're fielding an entirely new team. No more Shador, no more Travis Hunter. Those guys are off to the NFL. They've got Caden Salter taking over at quarterback. I think he's a very nice player. It's just hard to envision things clicking well with that many new pieces right off the bat. But Georgia Tech, meanwhile, in year 3 for Brent Key, Haynes King's back in the saddle. He's got some weapons. I think the secondary can give them trouble. I'm going to trust what I've seen with Georgia Tech. I'm on the Yellow Jackets. I'm just hoping this isn't that one game where they stub their toe, because they just always seem to do that. Phil, what do you like in this one?
Yeah, and if you go back and take a look at last year, like the Syracuse game that they lost as an away favorite last year, the one key I'll mention there, and I use key because when I talked to Coach Key last year, he said he thought that the trip from Ireland affected them 2 weeks after they came back, which would be the Syracuse game. So keep that in mind. I think when I look at Georgia Tech, I'm really bullish on this team this year, as you are, Tripp, because after playing brutal schedules the last 2 years, the schedule lights up. They've got a very talented team. We saw the defense make great strides last year, going from allowing 5.1 yards per carry to 4.3, and I think they continue to improve. Having Haynes King and Jamal Haynes in the backfield, they are loaded offensively. And I just think it's tough for Colorado to replace players like Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and some key players on the defensive side as well. Deion Sanders seems to feel that Colorado's going to be a better team this year than last year. More overall talent, but I'm going to take Georgia Tech to go on the road and get the win here. And I agree with you. I would have had the line near closer to a touchdown in this one.
All right, we'll see if Georgia Tech can take care of business on the road in Boulder. Phil, those were the appetizers for what is a loaded Saturday as we go to the high noon game, big noon kickoff. Although I don't know if you can really call it big noon kickoff because 12:14. I'm with you. I heard you say that earlier this week on College Sports Now with Stephen Hartzell and Wayne Cook. I'm 100% on your side there, Phil. That's not noon. That's 12:14. We're getting towards the second quarter by the time this game is kicking off in Columbus, but it is the marquee game of the day. So we're going to start Saturday with it. Number 1 Texas at number 3 Ohio State. CFP semi rematch. Ohio State winning en route to the national championship. It's one of the hardest road environments to play in. A super tight line. Ohio State laying 1.5 at home. The over-under's 47.5, so expecting kind of a lower scoring game. All the shine is on the quarterbacks. Arch Manning time in Austin. Jalen Sayin, full-time guy in Columbus. Of course, he's got the luxury of Jeremiah Smith catching balls for him at Ohio State. Texas, really good on the road. They've won 11 straight true road games, best in the nation. Phil, I'm not sure. I feel like you've said on our doc here, I'm not sure you like a side, but you like defense in this game. You think it's going to go under that 47.5?
Yeah, I do like the total in this one. And, pet peeve would be the big noon game kicking off at 12:14. And I try to take a picture of the 12 games I'm watching, and all you see is these talking heads. And how much more can you say about Ohio State, Texas? I mean, everybody's talked about it all week long. Why do we need an extra 15 minutes to talk about the damn game? Play the game. Put it on the TV. Let's get 12 games rolling at the same time. I digress. When I look at this matchup, I think when you look at Texas, my question mark would be the offensive line, where they lose 4 starters from last year. They lose their top 3 receivers from last year, and they've got a first-time starter on the road. Arch Manning started 2 games last year, but they were both at home against softer competition. This is his first true road start. Comes against a really good defense. When you look at Ohio State, they've got a young quarterback in Sayin, and I've got Texas, my number 1 rated defense in the country. So I think we're going to have a great game. Do keep in mind, Texas went on the road last year, played the defending national champion Michigan, and came out of there with a solid victory. They won that game 31-12. I like the under in this game the best, and I'd give a slight lean to Texas. The number's been dropping. It was like 2.5 earlier in the week. It's down to 1.5. Who knows? It might be pick 'em by game time. The number 1 team's never been an underdog in game 1 of the season. But my best place here is probably the under.
What a play! What a fact there pulled out by Phil. The number 1 team has never been an underdog in an opener. I love that. What a great little nugget for those of you out there trying to get those extra little tidbits in before you might get some action on this weekend trip as you you take us down to hot Atlanta.
Well, yeah, you know who else doesn't like the 12-14 kickoffs? That's your buddy Steven Hartzell, because on the blitz, that means he's going to have to kill 14 minutes before we can get to a game, and we've got a producer that doesn't like to take breaks. But let's head to Atlanta. Noon kick. We've got Tennessee and Syracuse. They're going to be covered up in orange in Saturday afternoon down there in the bins. Pair of 10 and 3 teams from a year ago. Both will definitely look different this year, especially at quarterback. Nico's gone to UCLA. In comes Joey Aguilar from App State at the controls for Josh Heupel this year. Kyle McCord leaves Syracuse, goes to the NFL. Now Fran Brown has named Steve Angeli his starter in week 1. Coach Brown was a defensive assistant at Georgia in 22 and 23 before taking over at Syracuse. So he should have some familiarity with the Heupel offense. He's seen it before. Do you think they have any chance at keeping this close? It looks like the spread is 13.5, or do you just see Tennessee running away with this one?
I like the Vols here. I do have questions about Tennessee's offense. You look at Aguilar for App State two years ago, is really good. Last year dropped off among the nation's leader in interceptions. He's had to learn 3 offenses now in 1 year. The App State offense, the UCLA offense, now the Tennessee offense. They lose Dylan Sampson, their 1,493-yard rusher. It was the most ever for a Tennessee running back. They lose their top 3 receivers. They lose some players off the offensive line. I have questions on the Tennessee offense. I do have questions on the Syracuse offense. So they were so much Kyle McCord last year, nearly 5,000 yards passing. You had a veteran quarterback. Now they go with a much younger quarterback, one that's barely played. They lose a lot of talent off their offense. But when I look at these two teams, big defensive edge to Tennessee. They last year had a much better defense and got more coming back. Big special teams edge to Tennessee, crowd edge to Tennessee. So all those factors have me picking the Vols. I would grab it while it's 13.5. I'm a little uncomfortable laying over 14 in this one, but I'll lay the under 14 at 13.5. I could see Tennessee winning this between 14 and 21.
All right, folks, get after it now. And as the saying goes, defense and special teams do win championships. A game with a lot of question marks you just mentioned. Another game with question marks on both sides. Phil, as we step out of the ranked games, we go down to New Orleans. Northwestern coming into Yulman Stadium, taking on my Tulane Green Wave. Roll Wave.
What kind of shirt is that there?
Yeah, that would be the Angry Wave right there. All right. Tulane is always angry. Phil, I am an alum of the illustrious Tulane University. So they will be mentioned on the show ad nauseum as long as it's worthwhile. Tulane favored by nearly a touchdown. It's 6.5 at last glance. The over-under at 46.5. The big question, though, is who's the quarterback? Because Brendan Sullivan was presumably the guy. He got hurt in fall camp. Then Caden Simonza is brought in. Jake Retzlaff transfers late after spring ball from BYU. A lot of reliance on transfers, though, on both sides because Northwestern has a transfer quarterback in Preston Stone as they continue that trend of transfers becoming the starting quarterback in week 1. But you're expecting their best points per game in 2017. What are you feeling in this one? Northwestern on the road against a tough Tulane team with a very good head coach who's getting a lot of P4 interest.
Yeah, and first of all, Tulane made a great hire in John Summerall. This guy did an incredible job last year. Tulane was a money machine for me the majority of the year last year. They were not just beating teams, they were pummeling teams. I loved it every step of the way. Then they had a meaningless game against Memphis, and they played like it was a meaningless game. And then they lost to Army and had a poor finish to the season. But I think Tulane's dangerous. They're the preseason favorite to win the American Conference, no matter who starts at QB. When I look at Northwestern, though, I like their defense. I like the fact that 2 years ago, their head coach just stepped into a tough situation in David Braun, and they just upset teams one after another, had a great year. Now, last year was a step back, but they did not have an offense the last couple of years. Now they have an offense with Preston Stone. I think Preston Stone's going to be one of the impact transfers coming in. So I think you pair that defense and offense where you got Big Ten talent as a dog. I think it's going to be a good game, but I'll take the points in this one with Northwestern.
I will say Tulane has faced Preston Stone before because they faced him when he was on SMU. So maybe a little familiarity there with Tulane, despite the fact that they have a lot of changes on both sides of the ball with the transfers trip.
You're hurting, aren't you, Con? You were really
Yeah.
hoping he was going to be leaning Tulane there. Aren't you?
It hurts the soul. It's all right. It's okay.
I can
Listen, I always trust in Phil's picks. I just hope Northwestern can cover as long as Tulane wins. All right. That's fine.
I'm a little worried about what he has to say about my Florida State Seminoles too later. We'll get there though. Mississippi State. They're opening up on the road in Hattiesburg this year, taking on Southern Miss, or are they really taking on Marshall from last season? Now they just happen to be wearing Southern Miss uniforms. Charles Huff won the Sun Belt last season at Marshall. He's bringing his quarterback with him, Braylon Braxton, and a few other players. Braxton was the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year last year. Jeff Lebby in year 2, he's actually got his quarterback that they expected to have last year, Blake Shapen. He got hurt, missed 8 games with a shoulder injury. But is this a trouble spot here for Mississippi State, an SEC team? Because I'm telling you, I've talked to some people who think Southern Miss is a live dog this week to just win this game straight up. What do you see here, Phil?
Yeah, I think Southern Miss has that opportunity. First of all, Mississippi State's in an uncomfortable role. And what I mean by that is they usually come in as the underdog. Now they're a big favorite. We see teams in that situation, like Vanderbilt last year, losing to Georgia State, struggling. I do think Mississippi State's improved over last year. It's the second year for Coach Levy. And as you mentioned, Blake Shapen's there. And they really made an emphasis to improve the line of scrimmage. Talking to the coaches there, they mentioned the fact that Toledo came in and pushed them around. They didn't want that this year, so they got a lot bigger, bulkier especially on the defensive side of the ball. But as you correctly pointed out, Tripp, you look at Southern Miss, and they're basically Marshall from last year, especially the skill positions, quarterback, and he basically brought his entire receiving core with him. I think there's 11 or 12 Marshall players. In fact, there's more Marshall players on the Southern Miss team than there are left as far as starters go from last year's squad. And they're at home. They got a new head coach. Marshall, a couple of years ago, pulled a big upset over Notre Dame. So I think you've got a Marshall team a Southern Miss team that thinks they can play. I'll take the points in this one with a live home dog.
Love it.
All right, let's go to SEC country. Let's go to Kentucky. All right, there's always that one MAC game in week 1 that you just kind of look at and go, And I think this is it, Phil. Toledo at Kentucky. And the reason it gives me a little pause is right now on ESPN, the line is 9.5. I've seen it as low as 7. Just 7 points for Kentucky at home against perennial MAC power Toledo. Kentucky just announced Zach Calzada is the starting quarterback, the transfer from Incarnate Word. His first test really, really stiff with Toledo, who has their quarterback coming back in Tucker Gleason. What do you think about this one? Is Kentucky on a potential upset alert in week 1 at home?
Well, I would absolutely love Toledo if Kentucky was off a 8-4 season and potentially overlooking them. But I like Toledo for the fact that they are they're a potential playoff team this year. They could be the group of 5 team. But I am a little concerned that Kentucky is coming off the type of season they had last year. They will be well prepared for this one and completely focused on getting the win in the opener, especially coming off a massively disappointed season. But let's focus on Toledo for a minute. You know, as I mentioned, last year they went into Mississippi State and pushed them around the line of scrimmage. Last year they were like number 111 on my experience chart. This year they're number 25. They're a much more experienced team. They've got a veteran quarterback coming back in Tucker Gleason. They're very talented. And when you look at the rest of their schedule, they could be favored in all the rest of their games. As mentioned, we may be talking about Toledo in the playoffs this year if they win this game. So I think the possibility exists. And I think I think Toledo has a shot here. My main concern is that Kentucky is going to be well prepared for them coming off the season they were. And I think what's happened to the line is I believe it opened at 9. A lot of Toledo money came in, brought it down to around 7, and now people are putting it back up there, probably where it started out, and it may climb to 10.
If Toledo wins this game, I need a retweet of the final score with the gif of that old Cowboys coach going, playoffs? We're talking playoffs? I just need that in my life. Somebody make that happen.
I'm sure they will. Their social team will be all over that. All right, let's move to the 3:30 window. You know where we're going here. Doak Campbell Stadium, freshly renovated, painted end zones, by the way, which is a big deal for Florida State fans. I don't know why we've had those terrible looking end zones the last couple of years, but they are going to be painted red this year. It must be a misprint that I'm reading Florida State. The proud Florida State Seminoles are a 13.5-point home dog in the home opener. Just Phil, go ahead. Just hit me with it. Where are we going here?
By the way, that quote was a Saints coach, Jim Mora.
Oh, you're right. It was the Saints coach. Wow.
Yes. But let's go to the Alabama-Florida State game. And I tell you what, I'm bullish on Florida State this year, Trip. Got them my number one most improved team in the country. You're looking for the team that gets the biggest increase in record this year. It's Florida State. They're going to go from 2 wins up to maybe 8 or 9. It's going to be a 6-7 difference for this year versus last year. And a big part of the reason is I think when you have so many players in the transfer portal like Florida State did, and you're winning, then everybody's built together as a team. Once you start losing or have a bad start to the year, maybe you don't have that team cohesion. And look what happened last year, the fall to 2-10. With that said, I am so bullish on Alabama this year. It's ridiculous. Each of the units rank in my top 10 in the front of the magazine. Ty Simpson was my number 3 rated quarterback coming out of high school. He's been at Bama for 3 years. He's got tremendous supporting cast, a great offensive line, receiving core, running backs around him. The defense is loaded with NFL players. This is an Alabama team that I have an underdog in one game at Georgia, and they're a 4-point dog. They could very well win the SEC, be a national title, and they are a national title contender this year. They're absolutely loaded. And I think Ty Simpson may be a better fit for this offense than Jalen Milroe. They're in year 2 for Kalen DeBoer. And remember, year 1, I think you had your Saban players and you had your DeBoer players, and it wasn't a great mix. This year, when the transfer portal opened up, nobody left. They're all just Kalen DeBoer players. He does great in his second year. I like Bama to win this one by more than the 13.5, but I do think Florida State is going to have a big rebound year this year. How's that for you, Trip?
All right. I'll take it. I would love to see. I mean, honestly, 8 or 9 wins, we would kind of have to just take that right now and run with it as FSU fans. Another game I want to talk about at 3:30, Iowa State coming off the win in Dublin last week. They're back at home taking on South Dakota. Rocco Beck, he didn't exactly light it up against Kansas State. I think he really did show some guts last week, though. And he really, in the fourth quarter, had such a great touch on some of those passes that they completed to pick up, the 3rd down conversion, the 4th down conversion, to put that game away late. I just want to tee this one up for you, Phil, because it was a big game. It was a Big 12 win for Iowa State. Is there any hesitation to lay 14.5 this week in what some may view as kind of a letdown spot against South Dakota?
Yeah, not only a letdown spot, but a look-ahead spot. So it's a clear sandwich situation. They've got some team Iowa on deck that's pretty important to them. So a massive rivalry game against Iowa. You're coming off a massive Big 12 game against Kansas State, one that if you lose this game, you're 2 games behind the other for the race to get to the Big 12 title game. So you're coming off a huge win. You travel to Ireland. I talked to both coaches, Coach Campbell and Coach Kleiman about that in the offseason. Both were very concerned about the travel, how they were going to adapt to it, spent a lot of time preparing for it. So you've got that going. And then remember last year, the opening game of the season, they played North Dakota. And yes, they won 21-3. But in that game, they were actually out first down 20-19. They got like 3 big plays, a couple of 70-yard runs to win the game by 18. But it was much closer than that. In fact, at the half, they had like a 14-yard edge. When you look at South Dakota, it's a good team. They only lost last year to Wisconsin by 14. They lost to South Dakota State by 3. And in the playoffs, they lost to a really good Montana State by 14. Other than that, they won all their games last year. So I think it's a dangerous spot for Iowa State this week. I would definitely take the points with South Dakota in this one.
Before we go to our next game, Phil, you brought up your most improved list, and I want to make sure folks are aware of where to find this in your magazine. Page 36, down in this bottom, I guess that's the right corner, right here. The top 12 teams for Phil Steele, most improved in 2025. Florida State, number 1. Utah, who we've touched on, number 2. Oklahoma, 3. Oregon State, 4. North Texas, 5. North Carolina, 6. And a shout-out to former Phil Steele host Kyle Schasberger, Louisiana Tech at
Hey,
number 7 on Phil Steele's most improved. It goes down to 12. He goes Cincinnati, Air Force, NC State, Middle Tennessee, and Virginia Tech. Page 36 of the magazine, folks. There's everything in here. You cannot miss with the Phil Steele magazine. Go get yours now. Limited quantities left. Let's go to the only other MAC game I think we have on our docket to talk about today. Temple at UMass. Back in the Mid-American Conference is UMass with a new head coach, Joe Harasimiak. They have a really tough non-con, though, Phil. After this Temple game, they've got Iowa and Missouri. For Temple, also a new head coach, Casey Keeler, comes over from Sam Houston, big running game guy at Sam Houston. Their quarterback battle still kind of an enigma, Evan Simon or Giovanni McCoy. So we'll see if they lean heavy on the run in this first game. Right now, very tight line, Temple by 2.5 on the road at UMass, still in that 3:30 window. What are you feeling here, Phil?
And, when I mentioned Mississippi State, I said they were an unusual circumstance. Same thing here with Temple. Their team doesn't win road games, and they're favored on the road. And so it's tough to lay points with them there. But I do lean with Temple. I think Casey Keeler steps into a decent situation. He's got good talent around him. Now, he didn't bring a ton of his players with him. And when I asked Coach Keeler about that, he said that he was trying to build a Northeastern atmosphere, a Philadelphia atmosphere with Temple, and the Texas players just didn't fit that. He did bring his running back with him, but I believe he was originally from the Northeast anyway. So I do like what he's building there. I think Temple's in a good situation, and I've got a lot of faith that Casey Keeler is going to get that turned around in a short period of time. So I think Temple's a better team. Just a little hesitant about taking a team that doesn't win a lot of road games and laying points on the road, but at least it's less than a field goal. So I'm going to lean with Temple here.
Phil, you talked about, we were talking Iowa State. You mentioned Iowa. That's a team I feel like some people may be sleeping on a little bit this year. I joked about a misprint earlier too, but this really could be one. They're favored by 38.5, but the total is 50.5 for Iowa.
Wow.
What's going on there? You know how I love those Iowa unders, Phil, but they're normally around 42, 43. I never get to go up to 50.5. Even if you don't have a side on this particular game, Phil, tell us a little bit about what you think about Iowa this season. I know you like Coach Ferentz a lot. You think they could have another really good season up there.
Yeah, I think Iowa's in really good shape. And the thing I love about them is they bring in South Dakota State's quarterback, which is huge because this guy led two national championships, and he brings mobility to the offense. They really have not had stability at the offensive position for a long time at Iowa. The injuries have derailed them in the years. And so I think they're going to have a really good offense. The offensive line has had some struggles in recent years, but it has not. It got better last year, and this is probably they're back to being a really good offensive line. Remember, they won the Joe Moore Award like 6-7 years ago. So I think Iowa's a very dangerous team this year. And when you look at Albany, they had 4 wins last year. They lose a good portion of their offense. Phil Parker and Iowa's defense last year, you look at the stats and you say, hey, they allowed 318 yards per game. That's really good. Not for Iowa. They gave up too many big plays. And I think when you look at Iowa this year for this game, I have a complete write-up in my Inside the Press Box newsletter on all 97 games, FBS versus FBS, FBS versus FCS. And this will please you, Trip. I'm calling for the shutout here, 44-0. So if it's 44-0, is that over or under?
That's under. That sounds like a lock. I love to hear that. I really do. I love a good Iowa under. Let's go to Charlottesville, 6:00 kick. Virginia opens their season as a 12.5 point favorite at home against Coastal Carolina. I know Tony Elliott, he hasn't been dealt the greatest hand in Charlottesville so far, but it is year 4. It's time to win. It's time to get to a bowl. Cavaliers have brought in Chandler Morris at quarterback. He's well known for playing at basically every institution in the state of Texas over the last 18 years of his college career here. He's going to need to provide a spark. UVA surprised us last year in Conway, as I remember. It was a pretty tight line, but they won 43-24. You think they can cover this 12.5 point spread here, Phil?
Yeah, and the thing I love about last year's game when these two played was how Virginia just pounded the ball down their throat. I'm talking about 384 yards on the ground, 6.5 yard or 6.6 yards per carry. And like in the fourth quarter when they were way up, Coastal scored twice late. So, I mean, it was an even bigger blowout than the final score would indicate. Virginia was just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And that's just what they did. And now, if you mentioned Tony Elliott being in the fourth year, his first year, he had like 3 returning starts on the offensive line, not starters, starts. 5 guys combined for 3 starts in their career. His second year, I think he was up to 7. Last year, they finally had a somewhat experienced offensive line. This year, they've got a veteran offensive line. They've got the running backs, as you mentioned, they brought in the quarterback. Last year, they were on the road at Coastal Carolina, did that. Now they're at home. They need to have a winning season. They're not looking past anybody. I definitely like Virginia in this one.
Phil, you're talking about running the ball, and I feel like that's going to be absolutely key for the next team we're going to talk about. That's number 17, Texas A&M, opening up this season, hosting UTSA. That's because Le'Veon Moss is back for Texas A&M after injuring his knee last season. Their offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, all about running the ball, and he's got his favorite toy ready at the controls to go ahead and just pound it down people's throats. And you get a rebuilding UTSA defense in week 1, so all signs point to a lot of points for Texas A&M. But that Roadrunner offense, they've got Owen McCown back under center. Your computer calls for nearly 36 points per game. The spread has ballooned. It was 17.5. Now it's A&M by a whopping 23.5. But the over-under is only 56.5. So hammer that over?
First of all, I'm very bullish on UTSA this year. I think they've got a shot at winning the American Conference. They are 2 different teams. They're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. When they're at home, they're unbeatable. When they're on the road, they're beatable. And the other thing is, it seems like Jeff Traylor, and if you go back to last year and follow UTSA at the start of the year, this team was all banged up. They got beat up by some, like after they played Texas, and they struggled with their offensive line. They had like 3-4 guys down at one point of the season. So maybe the key here with a game like Texas State on deck is to stay healthy. And then I look how Traylor's done in the big games. Last year they played Texas, got beat 56-7. They still ended up having a good year. The year before that, they played Tennessee. They got beat 45-14. So it seems like he almost mails in some of these games against the P4 teams. And I would think that A&M with an offensive line, and here's an interesting story with Texas A&M. When I talked to Coach Elko last year, I should say, he said, hey, our offensive line's probably middle of the road in the SEC. This year I talked to Coach Elko. He's like, hey, our offensive line's at the top of the SEC. We're a Joe Moore Award contender. So you take Le'Veon Moss, you add in Amari Daniels. They got 3 running backs that could be all conference on a lot of teams. I think this is a dangerous A&M team. And the fact that UTSA is on the road sometimes mails it in. I like A&M in this one.
All right, well, 2 teams that will certainly not be mailing it in highlights our next matchup, 7:30 in Death Valley. It's a matchup of the Death Valleys. The only other ranked-on-ranked crime this week in week 1, number 4 Clemson, number 9 LSU, rolling in to South Kakalaka. Brian Kelly still trying to win that first season opener since taking over at LSU. It's a battle of 2 elite quarterbacks, your Heisman favorite, Cade Klubnik, versus Garrett Nussmeier for LSU. I think LSU's defense might be the most important unit to watch in this one. They retooled it a lot from last year. Right now, the line stands at Clemson by 4.5, over under a 57.5. What are you feeling here, Phil, with this highly touted matchup at 7:30 on Saturday night?
Yeah, the line's coming up a little bit, it seems, in this one. And I still like Clemson. I'm really bullish on Clemson this year. I think they're playing in the national title game at the end of the season. Now, if you're looking at LSU, they've got an extremely fast receiving core. They've got a veteran quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. And if Clemson's got any weakness on defense, and I don't mean that weakness, a non-strength, it might be the secondary. You look at the safety play. Corners are top notch. Maybe at the safeties, it could be something. So LSU should be able to put some points on the board. But I think Clemson overall, wow. First of all, Defensively last year, they gave up 374 yards per game. You look at their defensive front, starting 11, they probably got 6 or 7 NFL draft picks in there. And now they have a new defense coordinator in Tom Allen. I think Clemson's defense gets back to playing Clemson defense. Offensively, Cade Klubnik 2 years ago had a 19-9 ratio because his receiving core was all banged up. Well, last year, he got his injured players back. They added in 2 VHT true freshmen, and all of a sudden, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Now he's got my number 2 rated offensive line, number 2 set of receivers. I like the running back room. It's pretty deep. They brought in they moved a wide receiver to running back last year, and he's back. And they also add in Gideon Davidson, who's my number 3 rated running back out of high school this year. And then you've got Cade Klubnik. So I think Clemson at home is the better team on both sides of the ball. And I'm going to take Clemson minus the points in this one.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that game. Clemson, we know, has such a high ceiling, such a well-rounded team. But if LSU's defense, like Con said, if they have a defense this year, then their ceiling goes way up too. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Can't wait to watch that one in Death Valley. Phil, Fresno State took it right down the field, scored a touchdown on their first drive of the year at Kansas last week. They didn't score again the entire game. Kansas, on a side note, they also look pretty good. They look like a tough team, maybe one to watch out for in the Big 12. But Fresno, the Bulldogs, are at home this week. They're a dog, getting 1.5 against Georgia Southern. Tight line here. Is there a side you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, I like Georgia Southern in this. And you go back to my homegrown philosophy, and I did that blog on philsteele.com about homegrown teams, and it's Georgia Southern this year. They did not have to hit the portal hard. They had a good team coming back. And, the first 2 years under Coach Helton, I believe they were 6 and 7 in each year. Last year, he told me this is the best team we've had, and they definitely showed it. They almost made it to the Sun Belt title game. This year, I talked to him once again, best team that he has put on the field in his 4 years there. They got J.C. French back at quarterback and a veteran squad across the board. Fresno, E.J. Warner looked good at times, especially, how many times on 3rd and long did that guy under pressure complete a pass in that first drive of the game? It was pretty remarkable. After that, he struggled a little bit. I am concerned about how many times he was under pressure. They only gave up 3 sacks in the game, but I think Georgia Southern can get after him here. And I just think Georgia Southern's a better football team, capable of the road win. And they opened up the season last year with a nice road win at Nevada, so they can travel to the West and win. I like Georgia Southern here.
All right, well, sticking on the West Coast, Phil, as we get into the late night, 3 more games on Saturday to talk about, which means it's chase time, folks. If you need it, these games are out there. 10:30 kick Eastern time, Oregon State hosting Cal. First and foremost, a lot of new for the Cal Golden Bears. Offensive coordinator, running back competition, and a starting freshman quarterback whose name is pronounced, I have practiced this and I hope I get it right, Jaron Keave Sagapalutele. I believe that's how you say it. I have practiced this in the car on the way to the office this morning to hopefully nail that. But the pronunciations are key. But if I got it wrong, I apologize to Cal fans everywhere. Revenge on the mind of Oregon State, though, Phil. They got blasted last year in Berkeley, 44-7, as they try and build on that 5-win campaign. They fell apart, though, in the back half of the season after winning 4 of their first 5. Malik Murphy, no. Now he's at the controls. He comes over from Duke to Oregon State. Tight line, Oregon State by 1.5. Low total, 50.5. What's the feel for you late night in Corvallis, Cal coming to Oregon State?
Yeah, and this one I definitely like Oregon State for a couple of reasons. First of all, one narrative I do want to dismiss. Cal lost like their top 7 running backs from last year. Everybody's like, oh, they're in big trouble because of that. You know what? Last year, their top 4 running backs had 626 yards, 385, 124, and 86. They didn't have good. Jaden Ott was a shell of himself last year. So I think this year's running backs actually improve the rush numbers over last year's running backs. It's not just the running backs. As David pointed out, you got a lot of coaching changes. You got a lot of new players on this team. And you now have a GM in Ron Rivera who says he's going to hire and fire his coach. Who knows how long Justin Wilcox is going to be there. Cal was a better team than their record last year. At one point they could have been 7-0. They were 4 plays away from being 7-0. but then they sort of got weaker as the season went on. I thought Oregon State, I thought their head coach made a mistake maybe at the start of the year, and Trent Bray pointing to the playoff. We want to make the playoff. We want to make the playoff. And as David pointed out, they opened up 4-1. When they started losing, all of a sudden that dream was gone. I think we're going to see a much better Oregon State team in year 2. And last year, they lost almost the entire team. This year, they're a more experienced team. I like Malik Murphy coming in. And Oregon State's been one of the better home teams out there. Now, last year, they weren't as good at home, but I think they can return to their dominance at home. Chainsaw going on third down like they have. I'm going to go with Oregon State at home in this one.
Let's keep it out west. Hawaii covered by that hook last week. So now they're on the road this week at Arizona. They're getting 17.5 points. Arizona, last year, they had the coaching change, but they brought back Fafita. They had T-Mac back at wide receiver. It still just didn't go very well. After the calendar turned to October last year, they only won 1 game, and they were getting blown out in some of those losses. Any chance here for Hawaii? Do you like either side of this, Phil? What do you see here?
I would lean with Hawaii. I think Arizona is the better team. I think Brent Brennan's squad this year, last year he took over late. A lot of his guys transferred to Washington. Not only the guys that had played in 2023, but a bunch of freshmen transferred as well. They all left for Washington. He was stuck in a tough situation. I think Noah Fafita is actually going to have a better year this year because last year teams just focused on McMillan. This year they've got a more balanced receiving core. So I think Fafita is going to be more effective. And they're just in so much better shape than they were last year. I think the spread's a little lofty, though. I'm bullish on Hawaii. But the reason I wouldn't play Hawaii necessarily here is if you watch the Hawaii game against Stanford last week, Eliotto was banged up in the second half, hobbling around the entire second half. I wonder, first of all, will he be able to be 100% here? How much will he play? Will he get injured? I'm a little concerned about that because Hawaii's 2 different teams. At home, they're really good. On the road, they're not. So you don't have a good road team, and you might be down Alijato. Who knows how long he'll play here? So this is probably one I'm just going to stay away from. But I actually like both teams. I think Arizona's going to be much better than last year's squad, and I also think that this is by far Timmy Chang's best team he's put on the field.
All right, last game on Saturday. Just 4 games left to talk about here as we wrap up the Phil Steele show for week 1. We've given you a whole lot of lanes so far in this one. Utah at UCLA, 11 o'clock kick from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The line, Utah by 5.5. Of course, it's the debut at UCLA for Nico Iamaleava after transferring from Tennessee. Does it against that Utah team that we mentioned, number 2 on Phil's most improved this year. You love them a lot, think they're a contender in the Big 12. They've also got a new quarterback, Devin Dampier, but Kyle Whittingham always has a sparkling defense, and I think that probably should get folks to favor Utah in this one. What do you say, Phil?
Yeah, I think UCLA gets a little bit of a bad rap. They started out last year 1-5, right? And you're thinking, well, they weren't very good. Wayne Cook points it out all the time, and I agree. Take a look who they played in those first 6 games. Indiana, playoff team. LSU, in Baton Rouge. Oregon, playoff team. Penn State, playoff team. And Minnesota, they lost at home by 4 in a game they pretty much controlled. They should have won that game. And so a 1-5 start, but then they beat Rutgers, beat Nebraska, beat Iowa. In fact, they ran for 211 yards on Phil Parker's defense. Who the heck would have thought that would have happened? They had a close loss at Washington, close loss to USC, and then beat Fresno. So they weren't as bad as their record would indicate. And I do think in year 2, Deshaun Foster has a better team. But I'm really bullish on Utah this year. I think they could be a playoff team. They could be the winner of the Big 12. And when I talked to Coach Whittingham, went over the roster with him, we got to the offensive line. He said, Phil, this is the best offensive line I've had in 21 years. He's had some pretty good offensive lines. You match that up with that defense, bringing in Devin Dampier at quarterback, who last year, if you take a look at the individual pieces New Mexico had on offense, there's no way they averaged the amount of points they did, but they bring over their offensive coordinator and their quarterback. And now Dampier's got a better supporting cast than he had at New Mexico last year. They should have a good offense to go with that defense. I also think this game's at the Rose Bowl, right? We know Utah's got a lot of fans. They're going to travel. And so I think Utah's going to have a good portion of the crowd. You're going to see a lot of red there. I think that neutralizes that home field advantage a little bit. So I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to take Utah on the road.
All right, let's go to Sunday. Head coach Brent Pry, one of the guys I always look forward to interviewing in Charlotte each year. He's such a fun guy to talk to. He's another guy that's got to get it going in the right direction for Virginia Tech. They're opening up with South Carolina and Lenore Sellers, 8 o'clock on Sunday night. Or I'm sorry, is that 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah, 3 o'clock kick time in the Benz. That'll be the second of 2 games in the weekend at the Benz. The Hokies were 6-7 last year. But look at the scores. Every single game they were in, it was a 1-score game, maybe say for 1 out of their losses last season. You talk about a woulda, coulda, shoulda season for Virginia Tech last season. And then South Carolina right there on the cusp of the playoffs. One of the teams getting a lot of attention going into this season because of Sellers. If they play well, maybe he's a Heisman candidate later into the season. Really good quarterback matchup here. Sellers, Kyron Drones, hopefully a healthy Kyron Drones back. Do you think the Hokies have a chance to keep this one close?
Yeah, keep your eyes on Kyron Drones here, because I think you've got a quarterback who all he's hearing is Lenore Sellers, Lenore Sellers, Lenore Sellers.
Sure.
Kyron Drones is a pretty dangerous quarterback in his own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't surprise me if he had a big game here. Now, last year, I felt South Carolina probably should have got the playoff berth. They were one of the best teams in the country at the end of the year, with the exception of their bowl game against Illinois. But with their dominance last year was that defensive front seven. They just ripped teams apart. Offensive lines couldn't handle them, and they were phenomenal. This year, they lose 6 of their top 7 guys off that defensive front seven. So I think you're going to see more lanes for Kyron Drones to run through. Virginia Tech had one of the most experienced teams in the country last year. Expectations were high. They disappointed. Now expectations are extremely low. I think they're going to surprise. So I think we're going to have a good game here. And I see the spreads over a touchdown. I think it's going to be much closer than that. I think when you look at these two teams, fairly close talent-wise, both have good quarterbacks. Tech has more coming back on defense than South Carolina does. I think it's going to be a really good close game, and I'll take over a touchdown with Virginia Tech.
Okay. I can be sold on that. The 7:30 game on Sunday, top 10 matchup, Notre Dame at Miami. This is a fresh start for Carson Beck. People forget that's a tough injury. He's coming off the UCL. He's coming off that from the playoff loss or the playoff game last year. Now he's with the Hurricanes. Maybe people were saying he's a better fit in Miami than he was in Athens, Georgia. He likes to drive around in a Lamborghini. I've made the joke a couple of times. Some of his teammates in Charlotte were saying how much a down-to-earth guy he is. It's hard not to be down to earth when you're riding around in a Lamborghini. But hopefully a better fit for him in Miami. But, boy, they've got a tough test with the Notre Dame team coming off that loss in the national championship game. Going to be a really tough defense again for the Irish this year. What do you like here, Phil?
Yeah, the injury was in the SEC championship game. Then he missed the playoff game. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I know Mario Cristobal's done a tremendous job building Miami. You look at the talent they have, both offense and defense. Now, last year, Miami won a lot of games with some late comebacks led by Cam Ward. Cam Ward's gone. I don't know if Beck could be that dynamic, and hopefully they don't need as many late comebacks. But if you look at the teams they played last year, they didn't play a single ranked team all season, which is surprising. Notre Dame, meanwhile, has been through the ringer. They not only played ranked teams during the regular season, they went through the playoffs, got all the way to the national title game. And I think if Notre Dame wasn't banged up when they played Ohio State, they would have given Ohio State a much better game. You go take a look at that national title game. They were down their top defensive lineman. They were down their top offensive lineman. Jeremiah Love only had 4 carries for 3 yards in that game because he was all banged up. So they were like playing with one arm behind their back when they played Ohio State. Now you've got a fully fledged Notre Dame team. I've got them favored in all 12 games this year. I know it's CJ Carr. He's on the road making his first road start. That's always tough. But I'm going to take the Irish. They're laying less than a field goal here. Take Notre Dame on the road.
All right, one game left, Phil. Monday night, all eyes descend on Chapel Hill. College game day in town. TCU at North Carolina. Some guy named Bill Belichick is the head coach. I never heard of him.
No.
He makes his head coaching debut at North Carolina. He hasn't done anything important in his entire life.
He hasn't even been a coordinator in college. What has he done?
I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. But anyways, he's going to try this thing in college at North Carolina. And he's got over 70 new players. So a lot to figure out. I feel like it's really hard to handicap this game because nobody has any idea what North Carolina is going to do. They got a new quarterback in South Alabama transfer, Gio Lopez. They're also after so Marion Hampton at running back. He's playing on Sundays. Meanwhile, you got a TCU team who's got Josh Hoover at the sticks at quarterback, nearly 4,000 yards a year ago. He's facing a totally revamped North Carolina defense. The line is ticked just over a field goal. TCU laying 3.5 on the road at North Carolina. How do you see this one playing out in Bill Belichick's college coaching debut?
I see this as a popcorn game for me, which means I'm just going to eat some popcorn and watch the game. That's I want to learn about North Carolina. TCU is a really good team. Well, one of the reasons I did not pick them up there at the top of the Big 12 was their schedule, because they have to play Arizona State, Kansas State, BYU, as well as Houston and a tricky one at West Virginia, all on the road. So 5 road games, tough schedule for them this year, but they're loaded. And they're a team that's, as you mentioned, Josh Hoover's back. I think this is one of Dyke's better teams that he's had there at TCU. But North Carolina, despite 70 new players, he's got some talent. He's got Gio Lopez, and Bill Belichick is one of the best head coaches of all time. What's he going to do? He's had the entire month of August to mold this team together. I'm just going to watch and find out, because if North Carolina wins this game, I think Bill Belichick and North Carolina could win 10 games this year. It could really be a surprise. Now, lose this game, and maybe the season, it's going to be tougher than expected to put all those guys together. I don't have an opinion. I'm going to let you guys pick it. Which one of you two guys likes this one better?
I've got a pick, Trip. Do you have one? All right. You were going to ask me about picks later, but this is my lock of the week. TCU. Oh. TCU covers the 3.5.
All right, there we go.
Really?
Yeah. I think TCU blows North Carolina out of the water. I'll be perfectly honest.
We're gonna have to maybe put a little side bet on this, David. I kind of like the other side with Chapel Bill. I do want to say I think Coach Belichick is the first coach in history to, at ACC Media Days, not do one-on-one Radio Row interviews, but he did do a press conference, and I thought I had the funniest line. If I could have raised my hand and got called on there. That there's actually a wide receiver at SMU named Jordan Hudson. And I thought that was just a great opportunity to make a room full of people laugh. But I don't know if I would have had the guts to do it anyways. All right. We've talked about this loaded week 1 slate here. We've hit a lot of games. Phil, do you have what's your top 3 plays for week 1?
All right. I'm going to give you 3 plays here. 2 of them we talked about. Georgia Southern minus the 1.5 over Fresno, Virginia Tech +8 over South Carolina, and then one we didn't talk about, Eastern Michigan +14 over Texas State. Chris Creighton is one of the best away dogs ever, and he always has an experienced squad. Texas State's got practically a brand new squad. I'll take Eastern Michigan plus the 2 touchdowns on the road.
Okay. Very nice. David, you have anything you want to add here other than your lock on TCU?
Yeah, I've got a couple other ones I'll throw in there. Give me the over on Nebraska, Cincinnati tonight, over 54.5. And I'm also going to take Georgia Tech on the road. I'm gonna follow Phil's lead there. I'm going to take Georgia Tech minus 4.5 against Colorado. Those would be my 3 for the week.
All right. Well, I don't have a lot of picks. I've just got my 1 pick of the week. I hate to go against Phil, but I think he's just got this one all wrong. I think the Noles roll at home. I got it like 38-3. I had it as a shutout, but I think Norvell will feel bad for him at the end. Let him get a field goal.
Nice.
Or something.
Nice.
So 38-3 FSU. That's what I've got. All right, guys. That is a show. We appreciate you listening. Phil, do you have anything else you want to plug? PhilSteele.com. Anything you want to fill the listeners in?
Yeah, I definitely want to mention that if you're out and about looking for the magazine, I mean, this thing is 360 pages. It is got 2 full pages on every single team. It's like getting 136 media guides rolled into one. It's only available at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So don't waste your gas money driving around for it. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or you can go to philsteele.com And when you go to philsteele.com, you can order the magazine. We give you the digital magazine for free with the order of the hard copy. We update the digital all the way through September. We also have 2 full pages. Think of all the FBS versus FCS games this weekend, guys. I have 2 full pages on every FCS team. So if you want to be an expert on any of those teams, get my FCS magazine at philsteele.com. And we also have an NFL magazine, 4 full pages on each NFL team. So that's all at philsteele.com.
And Phil, I got to say, for a very affordable price of only $19.99, you get all of that. Everything you just talked about. You get all that stuff. You get the digital magazine for free. And I bring that up, one, in part because this is a great product and everyone needs to have it. Number 2, Phil, are you familiar with the website collegepressbox.com?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been free since the dawn of time. It's no longer free. It's behind a paywall. So now, in order to go find all those game notes and roster cards and depth charts, you've got to pay at minimum $8 a month to go get that. So that's what, 8 times 12 is $96 for the year. Folks, you don't need any of that. Just get the Phil Steele magazine for $20 and you're all set. All right. So College Press Box, dead to me. Phil Steele magazine,
Wow.
Always alive.
Inflation has not affected the Phil Steele magazine.
No, not even
No
a little
tariffs
bit.
or anything.
No,
Still
not
1995.
Not at all. Phil Steele magazine, alive to me. Also, Homefield Apparel is alive to me. Folks, homefieldapparel.com is where you need to go. Use the discount code PHIL15, that's PHIL 15 for 15% off. Our proud new sponsor of the Phil Steele Show, Homefield Apparel. They are in Tallahassee this weekend for week 1 of their college football can't-miss kickoff tour presented by Modelo. Get to Tallahassee. Watch Alabama likely beat Florida State unless you're Trip Hurd. He's the only one who thinks that Alabama is going to get boat raced by the Noles 38-3. But anyways, go check them out. They're great. And if you can't get there, at least get to homefieldapparel.com. Check out their gear. Check out their platinum football boxes, their whiteout, blackout bomber jackets. They just celebrated their birthday, so they've released like 500 new items in the last week. Great stuff at homefieldapparel.com, and we're glad to have them.
We appreciate the views on YouTube. You can check us out on the Varsity channel on YouTube. You'll find us in your College Sports Now podcast feed. Phil Steele, we appreciate you. We appreciate Homefield, and we will catch you guys next Thursday for the Week 2 edition of the Phil Steele Show.